You are standing in front of a mirror in a bathroom made of imported Italian marble. You splash cold water on your face, but it doesn't wash away the dark circles under your eyes. You are 32 years old, armed with a master's degree in business administration from a prestigious European university. You were supposed to be the legitimate face of the family. You were supposed to manage the legal investments, the real estate portfolios, the commercial construction companies. You were never supposed to sit on the throne. But 3 days ago, the architect of this entire empire, the supreme boss, was permanently removed from the board during a massive federal operation. The sudden vacuum of power created an immediate, terrifying gravity. If you did not step up and claim the chair, the internal factions would have torn the organization apart, and your entire bloodline would have been erased in the process. You didn't accept the crown out of ambition. You accepted it out of absolute, suffocating necessity. Now, you are the CEO of a shadow corporation that generates billions of dollars in unregistered revenue, employs thousands of invisible contractors, and operates across 3 different continents. And every single person in this ecosystem is waiting for you to fail. You walk into the main conference room of the safe house. It looks like a standard corporate boardroom, except the men sitting around the table command private armies. These are the regional directors, the logistics coordinators, the enforcement specialists. They are hardened veterans who have survived decades in an industry where the retirement plan is entirely non-existent. They look at your tailored suit, your clean hands, and your corporate vocabulary. They do not see a predator. They see prey. You project numbers onto the screen. You talk about optimizing supply chains, compartmentalizing the logistics to reduce exposure, and heavily investing in digital infrastructure to outsmart international task forces. You want to run this machine with the sterile efficiency of a tech company. The oldest man in the room, a regional director who controls the entire northern corridor, leans back in his chair. He smiles a thin, hollow smile. "That is a beautiful presentation," he says, his voice like grinding stone. "But spreadsheets do not secure the roots. Fear does. And nobody fears an accountant." The challenge is open. The temperature in the room drops to absolute zero. If you show a single micro-expression of weakness, your tenure ends today. You look him dead in the eyes and calmly inform him that any deviation from the new protocols will be considered a structural liability. And liabilities are always permanently resolved. He nods, but you know the truth. You haven't won his loyalty. You have only delayed his betrayal. The reality of your new position sets in immediately. You are unimaginably wealthy. You control accounts in jurisdictions you have never visited. You own properties that look like palaces, but you are, unequivocally, the highest paid prisoner on the planet. Your security detail consists of 40 highly trained operators who follow you everywhere. But they stand outside your bedroom door. They taste your food before you eat it. They sweep your vehicles for tracking devices and structural anomalies every single morning. You are told this is for your protection. But you are smart enough to realize that these men are also your wardens. If the internal tide turns against you, the men paid to protect you will be the exact same men who execute the final order. Your family is a vulnerability you can no longer afford to keep close. You send your wife and young daughter to a neutral country under fabricated identities. The goodbye at the private airstrip is rushed and entirely devoid of closure. Your daughter asks why she can't use her real last name at her new school. You swallow the knot of pure guilt in your throat and tell her it is a game. You watch the plane take off. What a beat, spawn knowing that your love for them is the most dangerous weapon your enemies could ever wield against you. You return to an empty, heavily fortified mansion. You sleep in a different room every night. Paranoia becomes your baseline frequency. The first major crisis hits in your 4th month. It doesn't come from the authorities, it comes from within. A massive shipment, the financial backbone of your quarterly projections, mysteriously vanishes near a vital border crossing. The Northern Director claims it was a federal interdiction. But your digital analysts, the ones you brought in to modernize the tracking systems, find anomalies in the encrypted logs. The shipment wasn't seized by the government. It was diverted. The Northern Director is skimming the merchandise, building his own war chest to fund a silent coup. You are forced to act. You cannot fire him. You cannot take him to court. In your industry, human resources problems are handled with absolute finality. You give the order. It is a few whispered words into a burner phone at 2 in the morning. 48 hours later, the Northern Director is no longer a factor. The message is sent. The missing merchandise is returned. The rest of the table falls back into line. You established your authority. You won the battle. But you feel a piece of your humanity detach and float away into the dark. You look at your hands and realize you have crossed the point of no return. You are no longer managing a business. You are maintaining a dictatorship of shadows. You wanted to be different from your predecessor. Instead, you are becoming a perfectly optimized version of his worst traits. The response to your action is immediate. The organization splinters. The veterans' loyalists break away, taking key territories and crucial supply routes with them. A civil war ignites within your own ranks. The pristine corporate structure you tried to build devolves into chaotic, unpredictable street-level conflict. Your revenue plummets. Your expenses for security and enforcement triple. The math is turning violently against you. The chaos attracts the worst kind of attention. The international intelligence community, which had been patiently monitoring the transition, decides that the organization is fully destabilized and vulnerable. They launch a coordinated, multinational operation. They freeze the offshore accounts your financial team painstakingly set up. They raid the logistical hubs. Your primary communication networks go completely dark. The impenetrable fortress you thought you were managing is suddenly full of gaping holes. It is 3:14 a.m. You are sitting in the central command room of your bunker. The screens that used to show a smoothly running empire now display dead links in compromised sectors. Your encrypted phone vibrates. It is a message from a contact deep inside the intelligence community. A contact who costs you a fortune to maintain. The message is short. The accountant flipped. He is in federal custody. The architecture is compromised. The air leaves your lungs. The financial operator didn't just manage the money, he knew the architecture of the phantom companies, the legitimate fronts, the properties where your emergency funds were buried. He handed the authorities the map to your entire kingdom in exchange for a new identity and a quiet life in a suburb somewhere. You have to move. Now. You abandon the safe house. You leave behind the luxury, the imported art, the custom suits. You grab a single emergency bag packed with untraceable cash and a sterile passport. You get into a secondary, unmarked vehicle with only your two most trusted men. You drive into the night, leaving the city behind, heading for the mountains. The empire is completely fragmenting. Without the financial infrastructure, the money stops flowing. In this business, when the money stops, the loyalty evaporates instantly. The enforcement teams stop answering to the central command. You are bleeding resources by the hour, and everyone agrees on one thing: you are the primary liability. The internal veterans want you gone because you represent a failed regime. The rivals want you gone to secure their new territories. The authorities want you captured to close the ultimate file. You went from being the heir to the throne to the most actively hunted ghost on the continent. You live in remote, unheated cabins. You sleep with your boots on. You eat canned food. The millions of dollars you technically own are completely inaccessible, locked behind frozen accounts and compromised corporate fronts. You are the wealthiest man in the wilderness, and you cannot afford a single moment of peace. Every time a branch snaps in the forest outside your window, your heart hammers against your ribs. Every time a helicopter passes overhead, you calculate the exact distance to the emergency tunnel. You realize the ultimate, devastating truth of the underworld. Your predecessor didn't give you an empire. He handed you a ticking bomb. The power you craved, the authority you thought you could modernize, was nothing but a complex illusion. The moment you sat in that chair, you ceased to be a person. You became a target, a symbol, a problem that everyone else needs to permanently resolve. You stare at the burner phone in your hand. You have one message left to send. You could try to negotiate a surrender, hoping the authorities offer you a concrete box instead of a permanent disappearance. You could try to reach your family, knowing that making contact will act as a beacon, leading the hunters directly to their door. You sit in the dark, the cold mountain air seeping through the floorboards. You wanted to be the boss. At guess, you wanted to be the one who controlled the board. Congratulations. You reach the absolute apex of the food chain. You wear the crown, and your ultimate reward is an eternity of waiting in the dark, checking the locks, listening to the footsteps closing in, knowing that in this life the only true retirement is the one you never see coming.